Hello guys, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm sitting here today with the one and only Marty Friedman, who has very kindly agreed to come on my channel and let me pick his brain about stuff. How are you doing, Marty? It's a pleasure for you to be here.
My pleasure doing this. I think we're going to have some fun stuff going on.
Absolutely. So before we start, I just want to say that I have you to thank entirely for my career taking off, because the first video that was successful on YouTube for me was playing your Rust in Peace stuff backwards, like Tornado with Souls and all that. So yeah, thank you very much.
That's crazy, man. That's really cool.
So yeah, I've sort of been known since then as like the Marty guy on YouTube for like playing your stuff and teaching your stuff. So I think a lot of people are going to dig this. Been a long time coming. So
thank you very much.
What we're going to do is have a little deep dive through your career. I'm going to be playing you on guitar, probably very badly, a little snippet of some of your songs, and you're going to have to guess what they are, which I'm sure will be very easy for you. And then we're going to sort of like use that as a jumping off point to talk about your various albums and yeah, all that good stuff. So are you ready?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, number one, going way back. Here we go. Just about. What song is that?
Yeah, I know what that is. That's from the first Cacophony album.
Yep.
And it's like sort of at the end of a song.
Mm-hmm.
It's oh God.
It's the instrumental one.
I recognized what you're playing. I think it's from the song Concerto.
That's it. That's it.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Indeed. Well done. So
yeah.
I know that you seem to have like distanced yourself from, and you kind of almost like showed disdain towards like overly flashy like guitar shred type music. So like, what do you think about the resurgence of this kind of playing in recent years? Because it's become like very popular again, all this sort of like showy, flashy stuff.
Oh, I'm don't misunderstand what people might say. I'm not at all against anything flashy in the slightest. I just want to be excited about what I hear. If something is very cool and fast and exciting at the peak of some really important part of the song, then I get chills or something, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the placement of these things and the originality of it. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be original. Sometimes it can be a tired old lick, but put in the right place, it's just like, oh, bravo, you know what I mean? So I've never been against flashy stuff ever. And I've never really changed my outlook on playing, even from back in those days to now. But I'm all for things having a definite meaning and a purpose. And so if something is in a place where it means something, then it hits you, or at least hits me when I'm doing it enough to want to do it.
Mm-hmm. But
if someone's like, here's my best licks, one after another, bam, 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 it means kind of less than nothing, because it's just, this is a bunch of shit that I practiced. You can see the person's life, you know what I mean? When you hear music, if you get a vision of someone sitting in front of a metronome, that's not very sexy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But if you hear like a really cool passage and then it explodes in this very interesting turn of events that you didn't expect, that's the kind of flashy stuff that I really dig, and I've always been trying to chase that, and sometimes hopefully been successful, sometimes not, but that's what I'm going for.
Cool. So it's all about context, essentially, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So are there any like sort of more modern guitar players that you sort of dig what they do? Because I don't know if you're aware of like Polyphia. That's sort of like a modern day like Cacophony, I suppose.
Oh yes, I toured with them in Asia, and super band and super guitar playing, and I really like a lot of what they're doing. My friend Ichkanito is also just a drop dead fantastic guitar player and composer. The stuff he writes, I'm kind of like a long time ago got over people being good guitar players. They have to come up with something musically that interest me because
Yeah.
let's face it, there's good guitar players everywhere, but are they going to come up with a nice piece of music and present it in such a way that I want to sit down and listen to it?
Hmm.
I think you've been playing long enough that marveling over technique is not really something that
Yeah. You get
really excites you
desensitized
very
to
much.
it, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's a technique is really like kind of a given. So, but guys like Ich Canito is great. Um, who else? There's just tons of guys that I'm probably slipping up. Mateus from Brazil is just super player. There's just a long list of guys
Yeah.
and girls out there, really good.
Sweet. All right, we're going to move on to the next album. I'm sure this will be like the easiest one of today. So, I'm sure you never heard that before.
Well, I've never heard it butchered that badly before, but I've heard it before. Yeah, I think maybe the first three notes of that were sort of correct.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Dragon Mistress, and we just played it yesterday. So, yeah, it's yeah, that's from my first solo album.
Yeah, and that's sort of like your signature song, I suppose, right? In terms of your solo
Yeah, I
career.
hope not. I mean, I hope not. It's just it's one that a lot of people recognize. It kind of breaks. I'm playing it now. It kind of breaks a lot of the rules that I kind of make for myself. And maybe you do the same thing, but you contradict yourself. You make these hard and fast rules, and then you realize that you're breaking every one of them. And in this case, the song is in D, the melody's in D, and the first note is on the downbeat, and it's a D. So there was this period of time where I told myself, that's the lamest way to start any kind of solo, on the downbeat with the root. Right on the beat, not before, not after, not an upbeat, not an afterbeat, right on the downbeat with the root. And that's exactly what that song is. Da, da. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that, well, there goes my rule right there. And then, like, for whatever reason, I think this was like when I was when I was thinking about playing Budokan with Megadeth again, I listened to the songs on the Countdown record because we're going to play some of that, I think. And I listened to like the first four songs. Every solo starts on the downbeat on the root. And I'm like, what happened to this rule that I have? I'm like doing everything that I think sucks. And this is what I release. So like, I just forget about rules, man. But
Yeah.
like, if I think about it now, I would probably put a little bit more effort into like a more interesting intro entrance to the solo,
Yeah.
more interesting. Even if I was doing the downbeat on the root, I would come to it from a different place, do some bend to it or slide to it or something, but like I would just try to avoid starting on the downbeat and the root. I don't know why I did it that much. I thought I was more clever than that at the time, but apparently I wasn't. So rules and everything we say as guitar players, we kind of have the right to contradict it at some point in down the
Yeah.
line. And when you played that, I just realized, remembered that.
So the melody, it uses your kind of like your signature like Hirajoshi scale, right? No, that thing. So like, how did you first stumble upon that? Like, was that something you were sort of like consciously looking for, or is that just something that you just sort of like stumbled upon while experimenting?
Back at that time, it was a lot more like, wow, I learned a whole bunch of unique melodies from foreign music. Let's try to stick that into, like, because I'm kind of born to play metal, even though what I listen to is far from metal most of the time. It's like metals. I was born to play metal and interpret metal. So at that time, I was listening to a lot of Japanese music and Chinese music, and the melodies are different than what we grew up with. So I wasn't like, here's this scale, and let me try to stick this scale into these things. And really, I hope that that's not a signature thing of mine. And you know my music probably better than I do. And you saying that makes me think that maybe a lot of people, other people are thinking that. But I prefer not to think in that type of theoretical musical terms. I'm just
Yeah.
playing a melody. So at that time, whatever that melody was, I liked it. It wasn't like, okay, the chord is D minor. Let me play in this Hirajoshi scale and just see where it lands.
Yeah.
That's the complete opposite of the way I create anything. But back
Okay.
then, I was kind of an infant compared to what I'm doing later and what I'm doing now. But so it's very possible that you interpret it the way that you just did. And maybe at the time, no one was listening to foreign music when they're playing heavy metal and hard rock. So it kind of
Yeah.
threw people, and people tried to analyze it that way. And they said, well, it's a Hirajoshi scale, and I don't really know what that is. And no one says it here in Japan.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what that is, but it's very interesting to get your input because you've listened to a lot of my stuff and mastered it and played it so well that it's really interesting to get what you're hearing out of it because it's kind of opposite of what I'm intending a lot of times.
Yeah. No, I agree that like it's best to write music like intuitively and not use too much brain. But I'm also a little bit of a stickler for music theory, and I kind of like to analyze things. So it's nice to have like like a foot in both worlds, I guess.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
So moving on. I wonder if you'll get this one. Whoa. There we go. Should be that. Do you recognize that?
Oh, that one. I think you nailed that one. I think you nailed that one. That's from Rust in Peace. That was from the title song.
That's
And
it. Yeah.
that was by far my favorite song on that album.
Yeah,
By
it's the
far.
best one. Yeah. That riff,
Do
that
you-
main
do you-
riff
do
is
you
so
agree?
groovy. Yeah, that main riff is just like, oh, it's so groovy. I love it.
That's the first time I've heard anyone else say it. No one ever talks about that song. That was the song when I first joined the band. I'm like, this is fucking cool. I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Because I'd never heard anything like that before. I just thought Dave is so cool to write this riff. I wouldn't have come up with that, and he nailed that originality right there in that song. And
Yeah.
the solo is just kind of like a throwaway compared to the riff in that song.
So I think a big reason why your solos on a lot of these old records of like they've really dated so well compared to a lot of other guitar players of that time, because I think you never really sort of like approach guitar like a typical guitarist. Like, would you agree with that? Like the sort of way you approach guitar is just like it's not like a normal guitarist, which I think is what gives your solos sort of like such makes them stand out, and they still sound fresh today. Like if somebody was to play your Megadeth style solos you were doing back then, like on a thrash album now, it would sound completely fresh and like just made today. It's
Thank
crazy.
you very much. I appreciate
So
that, man.
was this something that you were like conscious of, that you didn't want to sort of sound like every other guitarist back then? You were like trying to carve your own path?
I think I learned at a very early age, luckily, at a very early age, that if you can't copy other people well, what you can do is make whatever it is you can do, find something in that you like and polish that and get good at that. So I was like 14 and we were, everybody plays covers and we're like, these covers sound pretty lame. Let's start writing our own songs. And our own songs, you can't mess those things up. And if you do, no one notices that anyway. So that concept kind of stayed there from the beginning. And so instead of copying other guys, of course, the caveat to that is, how would you say that with an English accent? Caveat?
Yeah, caveat.
Caveat to that is it's your responsibility to learn what you like from other musicians. You can't just say, I'm going to be original. I'm not going to learn from anybody. It's your responsibility to learn every single thing that appeals to you from other guys. If you think you could do something with that, you can't just let it go and not learn it. So there's that. But I think more importantly, the reason why my playing doesn't sound like other guitar players is because I don't really play guitar licks that
Yeah.
much. Back in those days, I probably played them a lot more than now. But like, I was just analyzing, I was explaining one of my solos for something, and I was realizing there's no guitar licks in there. You know that the licks you learn, the repeating licks and the classic guitar licks, and there's
Yeah.
none of those. They're all like phrases, and they're all following chords, and they're all like they could be theoretically sung or they could be played on other instruments. But there's none of those tropes that you have. Like if you're a good guitar player, you must learn X, Y, and Z, and these things, these intermediate or these advanced things. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of
Yeah.
times, those are the things that people want to learn. I mean, people get attracted to guitars, and okay, now I want to learn tapping, and I want to learn techniques with a name like sweep picking, I guess, or hybrid, and whatever those things are, they sound fucking cool. So you want to learn those things, but the downside to learning those things is those are the things that every single other people is learning. My grammar sucks, but every other person is learning those same exact friggin' things. So what can you do to avoid that? Well, you can like learn how to play with nice intonation and just play melodies all the time, because then you're going to play only the melodies that come out of your heart and your soul and whatever your musical upbringing is. But if you
Yeah.
play like the latest trendy licks, even if you play them very, very well, it just takes 3 minutes on Instagram to find someone playing it better. So, how do you avoid that? You just learn to play in tune. As soon as you can do that, then you can start kind of carving out your own thing. Luckily, I fell into that. You know, I was like everybody else. I heard Alan Holdsworth, and I'm like, I want to do that. I want to play like that. Then I tried to do it. I'm like, fuck, this is never going to happen. So I better go back to what I can do. I'm never going to do that. Never going to understand it. And so rather than being upset about not being able to do what other people can do, I decided to avoid guitar licks except when absolutely necessary, emergency, and sometimes bust them out and kick ass on some guitar licks. But
Yeah.
when I'm doing something of mine that I want to put my name on, I'm not going to really do too much guitar lick type based things.
Yeah, I get it. So if you take a solo like Lucretia, for example, where you're going like all that stuff, it seems like quite clear that you like look at the fretboard and think about it in terms of like chord shapes rather than like scales and stuff. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. You would be surprised how limited my knowledge is on like scales.
Yeah.
I know intuitively what everything sounds like, but I could barely name a couple scales, and those names are meaningless to me.
Yeah.
I don't think on those terms. It's more of a personality trait than something else. I mean, there are some people where the mode systems and the scale systems, it works for their thought process. And if you're talking about free-form improvisational high-level jazz, you got to know that stuff, or there's just no way you can hang with the big guys doing that stuff. Fortunately, I don't do that. And when I do it, I'm only faking it for long enough, like 30 seconds before I get out of the kitchen. But I think every artist, every guitarist has their own theories in their bodies. And whether or not it's learned from a teacher, which is one way to do it, learn from a book is another way, or just grow up playing music forever, you'll have your own theories. And I'm sure you do. You just said that you're very analytical, so that's a wonderful personality trait for a musician because you can analyze it and make it yours and understand it, and then also be able to show it to someone else. Now, I may be able to analyze something and understand it and put it into my vocabulary the way I choose, but I'd have a heck of a time trying to explain it to someone else in a way that it's going to benefit them. You see what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
So all these things are very personality based. It's really not a skill based thing. It's how each individual decides to absorb music and vomit it out in their own music.
Yeah. So when you're soloing over something, because like a lot of the time as well, like you're playing with your eyes closed. So like, do you like hear the music in your head, and you're like your fingers just like you're like dictating out what you're hearing in your head? It's sort of like how you go about it. It seems like very
Absolutely.
intuitive. It seems very intuitive how you play.
Absolutely. If I don't hear it, it's not worth playing. I mean,
Yeah.
I really don't understand. Well, I do understand. I understand that what happens in a lot of guitar players, and it works for a lot of people, is they learn, okay, over these chords you play these scales and these modes work and these positions work. And people learn that stuff and they say, well, the chord is this, so I'm going to do that. Sounds fucking awesome. They go through a whole career and it works fine. That's great. For my personal way of doing it, what it is, if I have to hear something, and when I hear it in real time, I try to get it out on the instrument, and that's the goal, is to be able to hear cooler things and be able to get them out in real time, almost
Yeah.
like a simultaneous translator, like at the UN, the political, there,
Yeah. Yeah.
one guy's talking the language and someone's listening in real time. He hears it and he has to cough it out again. So if something's worth playing, hopefully I hear it first. That's, I'm trying to trust my instinct. Sometimes I hear absolute garbage and I play junk. The majority of what I play is absolute garbage. So, but occasionally I'll have something good and I want to keep that. So, knowing what's good is probably one of my strong suits, and knowing what I don't like is also a strong suit. So, like, I hopefully am hearing something worth playing and then let it come out. So I don't need to like look at the neck so much and think about
Yeah.
positions and stuff. It's
But it's
all
quite
here
it's quite
first.
rare. It's quite rare that people are able to do that, like sort of like dictate music like in real time, like flawlessly. It's quite a rare skill, I think, and that's one thing I've from all like the great guitarists I've talked to. The one thing that sort of ties you all together is that you can seamlessly just translate what you hear here into your neck, like onto the neck, and like not many people can do that. It's quite rare.
I think it's just a matter of how the music in your life works. Like I said, everyone has a different personality and a different way to play music, and every single way is valid. My way is not any better than anyone else's. Other people may be way more effective with a different way. For me, I'm just lucky that I hear music all the time, and when I think it's worth putting out, hopefully I can play it the way I'm hearing it. Sometimes I
Hmm.
play it even better than the way I'm hearing it.
Okay.
Oftentimes I don't play it as good as how I'm hearing it. But it's always, if I don't hear something, it's like, what am I going to do? Just play something because the rule is written in a book that I must play in this scale over this chord? I mean, that just seems very non-musical to me.
Yeah.
But it's a great way to start to develop someone's ear at the beginning. But like at some point, you have to say, what is my music? What do I want to play? What do I want my name to be associated with? What's going to represent me? Am I the guy who plays a little bit before the beat in this situation or after it? Or you got to make these decisions for yourself. And I think the more you do that subconsciously, you just kind of shut down and close your eyes and feel it. And even if you make
Yeah.
a mistake, you can act like that mistake was on purpose, and no one recognizes your mistakes anyway. So I think that's just the way you kind of pegged it. I'm not really that. I can't really explain it very well, but I'm just playing from what I hear in my head and trying to
Yeah.
get it out.
Do you have perfect pitch? Like if you hear a note or a chord, you like instantly know what it is.
Um, Not perfect, and I thank God for that because I have perfect pitch enough to tell when I hear a note that makes me not feel good. I have perfect pitch when I can tell if something's not in tune or in tune, or beautifully out of tune, which I love even more than beautifully in tune, because sometimes the magical notes are just a little bit sharp. You know, overbending sometimes is just so much better than bending in tune. And oftentimes flat is the answer to getting the most beautiful note in pitch. And so my pitch is really spot on for all that stuff, but I'm
Okay.
not the guy who can hear a note in space and say F sharp. You know,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
probably could maybe 8 out of 10 times, but I'm not that guy and who can do bar tricks with a piano and blindfolded and all that. I don't care about that.
Cool. Alrighty, one super nerdy question about Rust in Peace before we move on. So I did a video a while back where I was sort of like trawling through the isolated like solo multi-tracks because I'm really sad. You know, that's the sort of shit I like to do. And like some of the solos
I
have
would
like
love to do that. I would love to do that myself. Yeah.
some of the solos have like kind of like weird cuts in, just a few of them. So I was like wondering like are the solos that ended up on the finished record exactly how you recorded them, or was there something like some comping going on and stuff?
There was never any like comping different takes like is done, but there
Yeah.
was definitely punch ins and punch outs,
Yeah.
and you shouldn't be hearing them. If
Yeah,
you're
so
here,
I think it's just a result, maybe the engineer not being great at punch-ins.
that's not true because the
No?
engineer was fantastic. Um,
Okay.
engineer was really great. He was a guy named McCage. Still remember him, and I wrote about him recording it in my book, and I was just really. I don't think he was a bad puncher at all. But if you're hearing isolated tracks and you're hearing punches in, then maybe things weren't what they were supposed to be. And
I mean, like
sometimes,
you don't hear them in the full mix. It's only if you like really put them under the microscope, you know.
right back then in those days, we weren't listening to things outside of the mix like we are today.
Yeah.
But you still shouldn't have heard them anyway. And sometimes, you know, my playing is very quirky. Sometimes I'll hit it with the string with my hand, or I'll hit it with a nail, or half of flesh, half a nail. So things could sound like a punch and they're not. But I
Right.
really hate hearing punches anywhere. So I'm kind of you know, a little taken back. We're gonna have to go back and fix all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Time for a second remaster.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's time to move on to the next bit. All right, I'll try my best with this one. Do you know that one?
That's that's wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Man, you know what? I could tell. You're in the UK.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're gonna have to sit down and jam sometime, man.
Oh,
Um,
hell yeah.
yeah, I think you have a super brain, and I think we're gonna have to sit down and jam. That's Valley of Eternity, and
It is.
yeah, there's just so many little nuances that I think you would just go crazy about if you knew on guitar. Just a lot of little tiny things, and I'm sure I would learn a ton from you as well. And so I'm looking forward to we'll do something in the UK. We'll do
Hell yeah.
something.
Or if you're around in September, if you're in the country, could hook up when I'm in Tokyo.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Sick. So my question about this one is, so I think one of the biggest reasons why myself and many other guitarists admire your playing is because of your like obviously masterful phrasing. Like you just seem to be able to just shit out amazing melodies without even thinking about it, which is sick. And Scenes is a great example of that. So when you're coming up with melodies, does it take you long? And is it so much like trial and error? Like do you sit and just play and play over a loop until you get what you want? Or does it vary depending on what you're doing?
I've done that, played over loop, but if it takes a long time, then what are you doing here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Usually coming up with melodies, that's the thing that I do far the easiest of anything that I do, coming up with melodies. That being said, 9 times out of 10, the melodies completely stink. So I've got a lot of melodies, but I have to throw most of them away. A lot gets thrown away, but I try to polish up everything to its best before I throw it away to make sure I'm not, throwing out something with potential. But I think the key is what I learned kind of late in the game was that what a lot of guitar players do is they work so hard on something and they nail it, and they work so hard and they feel so good about it, and they're not honest with themselves when listening back to it and think this is not that great. It's a lot of work, and it took a lot of detailed energy and practice and tons of work. You wouldn't even think of throwing it away, but it's still not great. Maybe the perfection of it is great. You really, really nailed it to the bone, but it's not great. And I think a sure sign of, I guess, maturity or dedication or real artistry is throwing that shit away, even if you worked months, years on something. I mean, think of the movie industry. People spend millions of dollars, tons of effort on many masterful people's parts, and someone looks at it and says, this is not what I came up with. Scrap the whole thing. So that concept for guitar players I think is very valuable. And that's when I started putting out really, really solid records. Like, for example, I think maybe around Loudspeaker or Inferno. When I started doing that, for me anyway, I find the overall complete quality of stuff is much more satisfactory, because I was throwing stuff away left and right, completing stuff, wasting money, hiring people, doing demos, renting studios, working my ass off, practicing hard shit, accomplishing these runs like, oh, the guitar players are going to go nuts about this run, but the rest of the song stinks. So I can't find a way to stick this run anywhere else. I worked so hard on this cool run, it goes nowhere. So you throw it away, and the result is you've worked a lot harder on the stuff you've thrown out than the stuff you're keeping. But the stuff you're keeping is it's gold. It's just good stuff. Good stuff doesn't mean you've worked harder on it.
Yeah.
So sometimes the best stuff took the least work. It's so fucking true, man. The biggest things that have happened in my career have been the least work. I can tell you that for a fact.
I think a lot of people will be very happy to hear that, who are the struggling, budding songwriters out there. That's some great advice.
It's so true. And once you let it go, man, sometimes when you work the hardest, you get the least love for it. So don't be afraid to throw something out, even though you've really, really worked on it. And that's how I got, for what I think, a lot better of what I do is from throwing stuff out, even though it sounds great. Mm-hmm. Technically, it's really good. There's interesting things in there. I just don't get the chills when I listen to it back. So what good is it?
Interesting. Right. The next one will be interesting. A bit more of a deep cut. See if you know this one. Probably going to fuck this up monumentally.
Wow, that was absolutely perfect. That's really hard, man. I can't play other people's stuff like that.
Well, I can't play it exactly like you. I've got to use it's hybrid picking. I've got to use another finger to do that.
Hey, if I could do it, I'd be doing that. There's so many things that doors open when you can do that. No, that was song called Ripped. That's Ripped.
That's it. Yep.
That's Ripped, yeah. And that's one of those things. That's one of those things that's impressive to people. That's really easy to play.
Yeah.
So that's the key, man. I know a lot of guitar players are watching your content, and the most impressive shit is probably the easiest to play. So if your goal is to impress people, learn some impressive phrases and play them.
Yeah. I mean, all this stuff, it's the easiest shit ever, but you hear that, you play that to somebody who doesn't play guitar, they're like, whoa, that's insane.
And you know what? The world doesn't play guitar. You might get the biggest gig of your life playing in stadiums, and you get a guitar solo corner, and whoever it is, whoever the singer is you're playing, is going to say, okay, you got 2 minutes to play while I'm changing clothes or whatever. What should you do? And then you do what you just did, and the guy's going to go, "That's it, play that." You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there you have it with the impressive stuff. And if your goal is to do that, to play the impressive stuff, yeah. And sometimes, you know what? That is my goal in certain parts of certain songs. And so apparently at that time in the song Rip that you just played, my concept was probably, okay, I want this song to open up with an impressive kind of riff. So what did I do? I came up with an easy phrase that's fast. Like anybody can, what is it, like about 180 or 185? It's like 16th notes or something at
Yeah.
180. It's like no big deal. So what's going to make this sound more impressive to people? Okay, first of all, get rid of any rhythm guitar. And the second thing, do an octave or something. Harmonize it in octaves. Then if you harmonize it in thirds or fourths or fifths or something, the whole thing just gets lost. You harmonize it in octaves, it just sounds like one big monster of a guy playing this impressive riff.
Yeah.
Not
You do
hard
that
to
a lot.
play.
Yeah. You
I
double
do
things
that
in
a
octaves a
lot,
lot, don't
man.
you? Yeah.
I do double things in octaves a lot. That's when I want to make sure that people are hearing this, and then double in octaves, so that for whatever reason at that period of time I was probably wanting to do something with an impressive intro, either for a concert or whatever. And so that's everything has a purpose, you know what I mean? If you just like try to impress shit all the time, and
Yeah.
then you lack any kind of hills and valleys.
So speaking of the more sort of like impressive stuff, as you said, or in England we say like twiddly stuff, kind of a funny phrase.
Yeah.
Like what are your I guess like influences when it comes to like faster, more technical stuff? Because you speak about your melodic influences a lot and like early like rock and roll and like traditional Japanese music, but I don't think I've ever heard you talk about like the music you like that's a bit more like technical or involved.
Well, I think the when the word technical is such a vague word that I think should be eliminated from the guitar language because everything is technical. But where did I get that from? I got a lot of that from myself, but before I got it to that myself, I was learning that fast stuff from guys like Frank Marino and Uli John Roth, and those guys were the first fast guys that were impressing me.
Hmm.
But then when I started to understand what they were doing, I started to break out from it because I didn't want to sound too much like them, and what they do them so much better than I could ever do them.
Yeah, it's like what you
And
said earlier about
I
just taking things that you need from people and then moving on to your own thing again.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to like everything about a guy. I mean, there's like some people who maybe they like my music, but they hate the fact that I put all these ethnic flavors in there, and that's completely wonderful. Um, there's very few guys that I like every single thing that they do. It's like I wouldn't agree with everything that they do because then I'd be that person.
Yeah.
So there's that. That.
Right. Moving on to the next section. Okay. I can remember this one. Okay. Oh. I can't remember the next bit. Yeah. I'm sure that's enough. Do you know that one?
It sounds like something I would do. Um,
It's the
it sounds
chorus
like
of a particular song.
I think it's from Loudspeaker.
Yeah.
You were so cool for knowing these deep cuts, man.
Oh, dude, like I grew up
That's
on this shit, man. So I know inside out.
so cool, man. It's so cool because I just really never hear these references. It's really cool. That's a Viper. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Steve Vai guested a solo on that thing and hit a home run with it.
Yeah. So I think that's like maybe your fan favorite album, from what I gather, and it's definitely my favorite. I think that's my favorite out of all of your solo albums.
Thank you very
It's
much.
very nostalgic for me as well. Just something about the songs. They're just so well crafted on that album.
Thank you very much. That was the first time that I thought I really am like entering someplace that I want to be. I mean, I was trying to find myself on the other records, and at the time, I believed in it 1,000%. But I look back, and there's a lot of things that I wouldn't do now. Still like a lot of the older stuff, but a lot of it, you know, it is what it is. But Loudspeaker was the first time I'm like, wow. Now I think I'm really enjoying what I'm able to do, and it was my best-selling solo album of all, even till now.
Oh wow! Okay.
It actually it hit number 11 on the pop charts here in Japan, which is unheard of. It was like instrumental album, complete pop album. By far the best-selling. Of course, after that, albums started to stop selling in the way they used to, so it's kind of hard to judge on sales numbers, especially in this genre. But for me, that was the first time that I felt like I could. Now I start to understand how to make a record that's really strong, and I thought that was strong, and hopefully I've jumped since then.
I remember the first time I heard, I think Elixir. There's that one riff in like the bridge before the solo where it's like it does all that sort of thing. I remember the first time I heard that, it's just like, that's one of those moments that just like changed my musical life. It was just like so cool, just hearing that sort of like the chromatics combined with like the major arpeggio. It just sounded so cool to me.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think I want to like give you as much info at the risk of sounding like someone who talks too much. I think the reason why these riffs like that work, and the reason why someone like you who understands music gets impact from anything that I do, is the placement of this stuff. That lick on its own, to me, it's kind of like a pretty pedestrian lick, but it comes in a complete stop and a timing change and a tempo change and a rhythm change. So it like hits you with a brick wall. So this lick suddenly has all this impact that it doesn't really deserve on its own, but it was perfect for that part. So when you got an album like Loudspeaker and the albums that followed that, there's just tons of shit like that happening. So a lot of the stuff, when you analyze it by itself, yeah, it's pretty cool. But why is it so cool? It's because it comes after this thing that makes it feel that much better. So that's kind of like a big trick to my playing. And I don't think it's because it's so difficult to play. I think it's just because thought went into where it went in the song.
Absolutely. And I think what I liked about the album as well is that it has this really cool mix of like sort of lots of like, you know, fiddly guitar playing, but also it just has this very cool like punk rock kind of like energy to it. And I think since then, I think I understand why, because I've just really turned on to players who don't just sort of like stand still on stage and just like with their head down, just like doing that. I kind of find that kind of boring. But like players who just sort of like throw themselves around a bit and, you know, just have that kind of rock and roll spirit. Like Alexi Laiho, like he was on your Inferno album, like he's another one of my favorite guitar players for that same reason. You know, he was like fucking up on stage all the time, but it was just like so sick. You know, it's just like very inspirational.
Thank you very much for noticing that. I totally agree. I'm so bored with anything in concert, anything. So like, I want to see sweat. I want to see blood. I want to see fucking acrobatic shit running around, and I really don't care about the mistakes. Of course, at the same time, I'm trying to play 1,000% the best I can, but that still takes a second place to, you know, looking at people's eyes when you're playing and not having to look. If I have to look at my guitar to play it, that song's going to be cut out of the set list until I'm able to do it halfway decent without doing that.
Alrighty. Okay, moving on to the next bit. Let's see if I remember this one. What is that? I think you play it elsewhere on the. I think you play it elsewhere on the neck, but that's maybe why you can't recognize it.
Can you play the chords behind it? Can you play just the chords behind it?
I'm not sure what the chords are. I'm sorry. It's off your Tokyo Jukebox album.
Is it Story?
No, it's the song by Maximum the Hormone. I'm not sure how you pronounce the song. It's like Tsume or something.
Tsume. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Uh, wow, wow, wow. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I really love that band. They're a fantastic band.
Oh, aren't they the best?
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah,
Genius.
super sick.
Just
So
genius.
the Tokyo Jukebox album, I admit, like I'm not super knowledgeable on those ones, but from what I understand, it's like a series of 3 albums where you take Japanese songs that you like and sort of give them your own treatment. Is that correct?
Right, right.
Yeah. So I know that one of the main reasons you moved to Japan in the first place was to get more involved in the Japanese music scene. And like after all these years, has your view changed on Japanese music? Are you still as excited by it as you were back then? Or has your thoughts on it changed or
Yeah. And even more, it keeps getting better and better. It's just so out of control right now. The whole Japanese music scene, it's like I started to like it in the late 90s, fell in love with it enough to come here, got deeply into it. All this is in great detail in my book, but to keep it short is I just really, really wanted to be in the domestic scene here. I got in the scene and doing my own stuff as well, and also working with the absolute top in the Japanese scene. Just a whole completely different planet of music. And everything I like about it keeps getting better. And what I like about it a lot is obviously the melody sense, but the production and the complexity of the music is off the friggin' charts right now. I would definitely recommend you check out a couple groups right now that are very popular here. One is called Mrs. Green Apple.
okay?
Unbelievable guitar arrangements. And then there's also Official Higedandism. And obviously Maximum the Hormone on the heavier side of things. ADO, Yoasobi. Just listen to any of their songs, or Momoito Clover, who I play with and tour with all the time and sometimes record with. It's so incredibly deep and complex. And these are the songs on the top of the charts. It's just like, I think you would be in heaven because you've got a very analytical mind and you can play and you can appreciate what's going on.
Yeah, what I love about
There's
Japanese music, I mean, I'm not super knowledgeable on it. For what I understand, just like the chords are just like so cool. Like the chord progression is just like very busy, and I love that.
Yeah, they're busy, but they all have meaning. It's not just a bunch of random
Yeah,
progressive music tropes, like playing in 7/8 or all that kind of
yeah, yeah.
stuff. But there's so much musicality stuffed into like 3, 4 minutes of a song. It just keeps getting better. And so I keep getting more excited about the things to do, and definitely keeps my mind sharp having to work in these situations a lot, not only with my own music, but when I collaborate with Japanese artists. It's no question kept my mind as sharp as it could possibly be.
That's awesome that it just keeps getting better. I mean, like, I'm not super up to date, but like Western music, it's sort of like gone the other way. And things have got more like minimal, I suppose, rather than complex or more interesting, which is kind of
Well,
unfortunate.
it's not one thing is not necessarily better than the other. It's just my particular taste,
Yeah.
and someone's taste. Everyone's equally valid. But yeah, it's off the charts right now. You gotta follow it. You gotta follow it. It's so fun.
All right. Next one. Let's go.
Does like another busy run come right after this?
I don't think so. No. It's on the Inferno records.
Oh man, you got me.
It's the saxophone and guitar bit on Meat Hook.
Ah, hey, cool. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
that's my favorite part. Fucking love that bit. Super cool.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
But as much as I love the instrumental stuff on the album, my favorite songs are the two vocal ones, or two of the vocal ones, Sociopaths and Lycanthrope. Like those are super sick
Oh,
songs.
thanks so much.
So my
Thank you.
question is like, how do you like composing instrumentally versus with a voice? Because I know like you kind of compose with the guitar basically as a voice anyway. So is it like a different process for you, or do you approach it like, the same?
Well, on those two particular songs, I use the talents of the other guys involved. I
Okay.
love collaborating. And so when you got a guy like Dave Davidson, Revocation,
Yeah.
dude, it's just sick. He is just sick. He just comes up with really, really neat. I like to think of it as like the way I like to see metal progressing from like, we grew up learning regular metal and it started to get more fancy. And he just like took it to a new level. So I said, dude, start the ball rolling. And he came up with a bunch of cool stuff. And I came in more like an arranger and I
Okay.
arranged his stuff. And I said, how do you like this arrangement? He's like, yeah, that's cool. So let's put vocals on that. And so he did the vocals and it's basically his riffs, but I really arranged it a lot in a way to allow me to do my guitar playing the way I like it. So it was kind of like the ideal band situation. Like, here's this guy who has these great riffs, and then I took them and I just put him to my fancy,
Yeah.
and it worked out that way. And really, man, his playing, just brutal. His rhythm playing is like, I remember hearing his playing. It's like, this is what I kind of wished Megadeth was gonna go into this realm.
Yeah.
When I heard his band, I say the exact same thing about Alexi.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I heard him playing and his band's playing, I'm like, I think this is what I could see Megadeth going heavy into this direction, but they were already doing it. So, yeah, I think Children of Bodom were fantastic. And that song with Alexi was done the same way. Most of it was Alexi stuff that I arranged, and then I added a couple of my own riffs in the rhythms, but most of the rhythms were his. And all of the bar stuff, that's definitely him playing.
Yeah.
So you can kind of tell our styles are very, very different.
Oh yeah, you can
But
you can tell a mile off, yeah, who's playing what.
I love the way he plays with so much reckless abandon in his guitar playing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can just feel the aggression in it. It's nothing like, you don't see a guy sitting in front of a metronome when you hear someone's playing, doesn't like an image come into your head of that person and their personality? You know what I mean? So if I hear Alexi's playing, I hear this guy going completely ape shit and like playing cool guitar lines, but playing them like fucking blood all over his right hand and sometimes the left. I really like that. So I think that song was done in a little different way than with Dave Davidson's song, but similar in the way that Alexi came up with most of the rad guitar riffs, and I just arranged them.
Got it. Okay, and that leads us on nicely actually to the last one. Okay. I'm sure you can probably deduce which album the last one will be off. So unlike the last one where I did melodies, this one is just a chord progression. I'm going to see if you can get the name of the song just from the chord progression, okay? Do you recognize that song?
Yeah. That's Dead of Winter, right?
Yeah, that's it. I love that chord progression. Super cool.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, some of those chords are not the same chords that we're playing, but it would fit in there. But you got it, and that's like very typical Japanese ballad type of chords.
All right, it was a pleasure, Mr. Marty Friedman. Thank you so much. I shall see you
Likewise,
later.
brother. Thanks
See you
a lot,
later.
Bradley.
Bye-bye.
Okay.